This is the Introduction to Laboratory 1 video for the Fall 2020 Human Physiology course. There are 3 sections that will be enrolled: 2257, 2683, and 8446. Since our course is an asynchronous online section at this point in time, it'll consist of 100% online instructions. There are no on-campus meetings and no requirements to be regularly available at any specific day or time. Content will be posted on Canvas, not delivered live, and students must meet regular deadlines for assignments but can access and complete the work at any time that is convenient for them. Some assignments, though, must be completed on particular dates. So those big days are typically Wednesdays during the semester. And you can look at the syllabus to see the course calendar for the specific days. I'm James Hoffman. Feel free to call me James. If it really bothers you to do that, then you're welcome to call me Professor Hoffman as well. The best way to get a hold of me, especially now, is my email, jhoffman@dvc.edu. Regular use of email will be our primary use of contact. I also have some announcements on Canvas as well, and maybe perhaps with some of you some Zoom. But for the most part, I prefer you to use your regular email address. It just makes things easier and tends to be easier on you. You can also use Canvas or Insight, and if you don't want your school email messing with your personal email, then that's fine. Use your Canvas or Insight, either one. Each has its advantages and disadvantages. I think overall, using your personal email tends to make the most sense. Email is great for brief and focused inquiries, and it really prefer you to ask questions and provide the answers. So tell me what you think the answer is, and that often leads me to pinpoint what that question is and where it's coming from. Right now, I do have office hours scheduled Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 8 a.m. Most of you would be in lecture on Monday and Wednesday at 8 a.m. if it was a face-to-face class. So 8 to probably 9:30, but my office hours 8 to 9. It's via email, so I'll be, online. I might be talking to another student by email or do something else, so you maybe not get immediate response, but it's a good time to get a pretty quick response. Any other time, though, I'll certainly welcome to email me. It doesn't have to be between those hours, and I certainly will get back to you within 24 hours, unless it's a weekend. And to be honest, I'm usually pretty good about returning emails fairly quickly. I also have a couple Zoom Hangouts scheduled Monday from 9 to 9:30 a.m. and then Tuesday evenings, notice the P, 8:30 to 9 for those people who work or things like that. I also just mentioned that Wednesdays are a big day for exams and things, so it makes sense that Tuesday evening, you can get a hold of me, especially on those days before exams, and we can talk on Zoom. I can also make appointments with you as well if you have particular times or things like that. I know for some of you 8 or 9 is pretty early, and some of you actually work. But that seems to work the best for most people. Course description, you can read it. Prerequisites, you need BioSci 139 or 120 or its equivalent. Bio 139 is a human anatomy course. You also need a chemistry course, 107, 108, 109, or 120 or equivalent. To be honest, the high school chem class would probably work as well, although you have to bring your transcripts and have admissions approve it. There are some recommended ones which just tend to make your performance a little better. And that's BioSci 102, intermediate algebra, which is equivalent to about Math 120, and eligibility for English 122, which is a composition and reading class. To be honest, there's a lot of reading in this course, especially when it's in the online form. and assessments will be, essays and analysis questions and things like that. You'll have to be fairly good reader and be able to go through them quickly because our exams will be fairly quick this year. The required textbook is the OpenStax Anatomy and Human Physiology book. It looks like this. You can get it from this link. I've also put it on the Canvas site as a PDF. You can get it from Amazon as a PDF for free. And it's somewhere between $40 and $50, $55 as a hard copy. Amazon sells it, our bookstore sells it. You get it in soft cover or hardcover, and it really depends on where you want to purchase it from. Things like that. You also have 2 laboratory materials required. The Human Physiology Lab BioSci 140L DVC Biology. That's what it's called in the bookstore. It's really not that. It's actually a laboratory guide for human physiology. It looks like this. It's the lab, though. He also, Stuart Fox also has a textbook. Don't get the textbook. We're using the OpenStax free one. So the one we have in the bookstore is a custom version. What they've done is they've taken just the chapters we use here. I think we don't do 4 or 10, but we do most of the book. So 80% or so of the book. They put it on different paper, which I think is actually better, and then stick it in the bookstore for us. It's about a little less than $100. If I just checked, I think it was $93 in the bookstore, if I remember right. And I just checked on Amazon as an example, and it's about $190 new if you go Amazon. So I think you're much better off buying in the bookstore. You need this. It is required for lab. There'll be a lot of references to this. This will have a lot of information for you to study, especially backgrounds and questions to answer. So this is essential. We also have, because this doesn't have everything, we call this the Fox because Stuart Fox wrote it, or sometimes the lab manual. You also require a physiology lab supplement. I thought I changed this to the 2020 version. The physiology lab supplement and the 2020 version looks like this. So I put this one here. The 16 is okay, the 18 is a little better, and the 2020 is obviously the best. There's not much difference between the 18 and the 20 though. But I do have the PDF on the course website, so you can download that for free as well. So basically, for about $100, because you have to have the lab manual from Fox, but the other 2 ones, if you use an electronic version and PDF, you can get them for free and have access to all that. Obviously, Canvas is important. It's going to link through the DVC website for announcements, course materials, lots of stuff, and especially assessments. All of our assessments this year will be through Canvas in some way or another. To remind you, there's a lot of support services. The Life Sciences Tutoring Center, LHS 116, so LHS 116 in the biology building, or Life and Health Sciences building, where most of the biology is housed. In the bottom floor, they have a tutoring center. Now, I am not sure what they're doing with that this semester, if they'll have open hours or it'll be all Zoom. During the summer, when there were no classes meeting on campus at all, it was all Zoom tutoring through the center. But there will be some what they call hybrid courses, not ours, but a few of the courses will meet on campus for various things. So I'm not sure if they're going to have any open times on campus. During the summer, though, they did have some computers open in the library, underneath the library, to use. So that may be possible as well. I'll let you know about all those services as they let us know. But you also have access to what they call Net Tutor. So that you can do through Canvas as a link. So you'll need a microphone, and I don't know if they require for Net Tutor a video. but I'm sure you'll have to have a microphone for that. There's a bunch of other support student services. On Canvas, you can find a whole list of them: the Learning Center, the Counseling Center, the Media Center, the library I just mentioned. And if you go to that link, or just cut and paste that into your web browser, student services, or just search student services on the DVC website, you'll be able to see it. We also have what's called a DSS, Disability Support Services. I know some of you might be working with DSS already, so let me know if you are, so we can figure out what we need to do together. The DSS does a number of different things, and for students that, for everything from a physical disability to making accommodations for them, getting a note taker, or something like that, for people who have test anxiety and all sorts of things. So you can contact them if you think you need to be tested and need accommodations. I cannot offer them unless it comes from the DSS Center, which means you'd have to be tested and on file with them to do that. But contact me if you're working with them already, or if you need to know information about them. I can point you in the right direction. Probably the big question that many of you have is about grading. Tell you right now, letter grades will be based solely on the total number of points you earn. Sometimes students confuse the quantity of work they do with the quality of work they do. And working hard is a great start in terms of this class, but just because you worked hard doesn't mean that you will get an A. You need to demonstrate mastery of the subject matter. You need to be able to demonstrate that you learned what you were supposed to learn and that you could apply it as well. So, some people spend a ton of time on physiology and never quite get it, while other students it seems to click for them and they don't spend nearly as much time. Years ago, I had a group in our face-to-face class that had taken anatomy together and all came in and took physiology. And it was the same 4 people in the group for anatomy, and they came over and take physiology. And subsequently, towards the end of the semester, they told me the story. One of the students struggled in anatomy, and he said he literally spent the last 2 weeks in the cadaver lab doing everything he could to scrape together enough points, and he barely got a B, and thinks might have been even, just barely earned that B. And those lab partners all got A's. And in physiology, because just the way his mind worked, he would sit in class, listen, take notes, and just for whatever reason seemed to totally understand everything I said. And his lab partners did really well in anatomy, struggled in physiology. And he would literally go to the movies the night before an exam by himself, because they were all studying. And he would come in and get 97, 98, 99 on the exams. And they were really struggling on them. So it was kind of interesting that in one subject he struggled, and in the other subject, which are very closely related in some ways, he did fine. So I think that conceptual learning is really important in terms of physiology. And while rote memorization is going to be important in some areas, it is not going to lead necessarily to success if that's all you do. Like it would more in an anatomy class, which to a large extent does require a much greater degree of memorization. So in terms of grades, we'll start off here. There's 800 points total in the class. You have 4 lecture exams, 100 points each. That's 400. 4 lab quizzes at 25 points each. That's 100. A comprehensive lecture-only file, not lab lecture. That's 100. You have what we call JALR, Journal Article Lab Reports, and then actual lab report. That's worth 25 for those. Those are 5 assignments each, and then a lab report at 50. You have a physiology paper and video. The paper is 25, the video is 25. And then you have what we call checkup quizzes and checkup homeworks, which are worth 75 points. I'll explain all of these in a little more detail in a second as we go through the slides. Total number of points available in the class is 800. To get an A, you need 90% or 720 points. If you want to get an A, then you need to earn 720 points in this course. And if for a B, 640, and a C, 536. And again, as I kind of explained at the beginning of this slide, grades are earned by the quality, not the quantity of work. So for lecture exams, they're on Wednesdays. If you kind of look at the exams, we have 4 and 4 and then one final. So there's 9 exams we have over the semester. We have a lab report. So that's kind of a 10th thing. We have a paper and a video, right? JLRs are not nearly as hard. Paper and a video. So that's, 10, 11. So we have 16 weeks this semester, and in every week you'll have something to do. And in many of those weeks, there'll be a fairly major portion of the class that you'll be, taking an assessment for or turning in an assignment for. So I do not have any major thing due on the same week. So your lecture exams will follow the week after your lab quizzes, and on a week where you don't have a lab quiz or a lecture exam, you'll have the lab report due. On a week where you don't have any of those things due, you'll have the physiology paper. The next week you'll have the video due. So I tried to stagger them the best I could, and you will have other things going on that will occur weekly, and you'll have some other assignments to do, especially at the beginning of the semester. But if you kind of follow my outline and recommended schedule, you should be fine in terms of time and getting things done. So the lecture exams, sometimes called midterm exams, right? The format will have some subjective portion to it. It'll be fill in, short answer, essay, calculation stuff. I'm envisioning it being only about 25 out of the 100 points, give or take. You'll also have multiple choice question tests. That'll probably be about 50 questions, and that'll probably worth 75 points. So maybe I'll make them like 1.5 points apiece. So at least that's my initial thought for the first one. We'll constantly assess and see if there's a better way to do things as the semester goes on, though. For each exam, we'll have what are called group problems. Probably should have changed their name this semester, because when we were in the classroom with face-to-face courses, students got into groups and they talked about, a certain aspect of these, and then your group would present it to the class, and each group would present one of the concepts. We'll do them a little differently, obviously, when we're online, but, it'll review some key concepts, but not all of the important material for the exam. And those are the week before the exams, lecture exams, so that you can help prepare you for that. Laboratory quizzes are also a similar format. There'll be some objective portion. I don't think we'll have as many as 50 questions, since there only were 25 points. I thought about it. It might be better to maybe make them 1 point apiece instead of, half a point or less. There'll also be maybe some fill-ins, short answer, essay, calculation things as well. So again, to be able to demonstrate that you understand what's going on. There'll be no formal review. We'll clarify the scope of the lab quiz as we get closer, but there will be kind of a guide to each lab quiz. It won't be for lecture exam, but for each lab quiz, they will be a guide to help kind of focus your studying on certain areas. And again, it won't be an exclusive guide, meaning not all of the material on the lab quiz will come from the guide, but the guide's a great place to start. Your final exam will be comprehensive. Again, lecture only. It'll be cumulative. It'll be similar formats to what we had for the lecture exams, and we'll publish more details as we get towards the end of the semester. So that's not different. except I will have what we call learning objectives posted for that. And so you kind of get an idea of the types of things that you would be responsible for to kind of help focus your studying for that. And we'll also exclude a few areas maybe on the final. Makeup exams. Makeup exams are only given under extraordinary circumstances. As you look at the schedule and see that you are going to be here, you need to commit to being here for the exams and doing the work you're supposed to do. So you need a legitimate excuse. There are a list of legitimate excuses on the syllabus, but it's, you're involved in a college activity, you have a medical note from a doctor, or it's a religious holiday. And I don't think any of those things are going to be as big a problem this year as they might be in the past because of being online. But still, I expect you to be there taking the exams, and you need to take them when they're offered. When they're offered, we'll actually, have a fairly wide range of times. They will become available at 9 o'clock in the morning, so 9 a.m. on Wednesdays when they're given, and they'll have to be submitted by 11:59 p.m., so before midnight, before the end of the day. They start at 9 partially so that we have those office hours again on Wednesday morning where I'm available to ask questions before the exam actually starts, and then I won't answer any content questions by Zoom or email until after the exam expires. So that's makeups. The JALR and lab report. I've been looking for a new name for that, and I haven't found one I like, but JALR is a handful. It stands for Journal Article Lab Report. And what it is, it's a series of assignments that are going to help you analyze primary research and break it down into a more simple form. So we're just going to take a sample introduction from a scientific paper that I chose because it's a little difficult, but not really, really difficult. And we're going to look at it in a couple different ways and kind of look at it for hypotheses and hypotheses, I guess, experimental questions, and kind of break it down into more simple forms. And by doing that and doing some other things in these little assignments, we're going to prepare for your lab report. You're going to turn in a formal lab report about a third of the way through the class. That will be on one of the labs we do in the first couple sessions. And that will be worth 50 points. And again, there'll be handouts and everything for that on Canvas. So your JLR, there's 5 assignments worth 5 points each, so that's 25. And then that formal lab report, which is going to be worth 50 points. So that's how to kind of look at that. Your physiology project will be a little different. The physiology project has a handout with guidelines that'll be posted on the website, so on Canvas. And if you don't understand or have a questionable topic, ask me. But basically, you pick any topic in physiology you want to write about. It has to be related to physiology. It doesn't have to be physiological, though. So as an example, most of you are in this class because your future requires you to take this class as a prerequisite. So whether it's nursing or occupational therapy or some sort of nutritional program or kinesiology, you could do any career as an example. You can do any disease as an example. You can do any activity. There's a lot of different things you can do. And you're going to pick that topic and write a 6 to 12 normal font, normal margin, text-based paper with references, because you're in college, right? College science. And that's worth 25 points. And then the next week, you're going to turn in a video that's in 5 to 6 minutes, no longer, no shorter. I'm going to be really, really strict about the time requirement. And the idea is you're going to summarize your paper in a video. And you're probably going to struggle with it because 5 or 6 minutes for some people right now may seem like a lot, but you'll find, especially, even for a 6-page paper, you're not going to be able to talk about all the information in a 6-minute presentation. And that's part of the whole idea, is for you to have to go in and pick and choose what you think is the most important portions of it in order to present. So each one of those are worth 25 points. Then we have what we call checkups, and they're basically homework and quizzes, okay? And so the checkups are mostly Canvas quizzes, but there'll be a few other homeworks, especially at the beginning. The Canvas quizzes I've changed after I wrote this because it makes more sense to have them completed on a Sunday. So they'll be usually available for most of the week that you're supposed to be looking at the material for, and I believe I have them expire on Sunday evening. So they'll be timed. It'll be 30 seconds to probably less than 2 minutes per question, probably closer to 1 minute per question. They're usually at least 6 and usually not more than 40 questions. It covers lecture and lab materials. In the syllabus, it shows you what each one is on. It's open note, open book for the most part. When I say open source, I'm talking about classroom materials. You can't use the internet. You can't ask any other human about it. There'll also be some homework in part of this as well. Since we have more than 100 questions, or in this case 75 points, we're going to, so I'm going to change this slide before I post this. But since we have more questions than the points available, what we're going to do is we're going to take whatever percentage you earn on all of the homework and quizzes stuff and multiply that by 75, and that would be your score. So as an example, if you got 100% on everything, you'd get 100% times 75, you get all 75. If you had 80% on everything, you'd get 80% of 75, which would be 60. So your percentage matters in terms of those assignments. So here's the grade worksheet that I kind of made that will look at and give you a place. There's also a back page to keep your grade. So here's places for the scores for the quizzes and the exams and the final exam. And then here's all your checkup stuff. Checkup 1, all of these refer to those online Canvas checkups. Okay, so they'll just be quizzes. And we'll have those every week until, starting the second week until basically the end of the semester. And there's here a few other assignments. There's an orientation checkup. There's a scavenger hunt checkup. I think I still haven't written it yet, and we'll start school in less than a week from when I'm doing this. A take-home checkup that will have a little take-home quiz, and then another kind of quiz you'll do checkup for that. So basically, we're going to add up all these points, get your percentage of what you got correct, and then we'll multiply that by 75. So and there's also places on the grades for the back that explain the grading system, place to put in the JLR and lab report, as well as the physiology projects on the back too. A couple other points in time. One of the things that has been shown to really kind of help students, especially in online classes, is to have them keep a fairly strict schedule. So what I've done is I've set up 3 different portions of a schedule. There is a due date when the things that you're supposed to do in class need to be done by. You can complete them early when they're available, right? And they'll certainly be available, as well as much before the due date as I can possibly do that. But the due date is when you're supposed to do it. And if we were in a face-to-face class, right, you would turn it in on Monday or Wednesday or whatever, depending on our schedule. But then because we're online, and I kind of, alluded to this earlier, that since we're online, we don't necessarily have to complete everything on a Monday or Tuesday or Thursday like a normal school day. And so I've extended sometimes those dates that are due a couple days if we have the luxury to do that, where you have a penalty date. All right, so something might be due on Thursday, but I'm going to give you till Sunday to turn it in, or take a quiz, do your checkup, as an example. So once that time has passed, then you have a penalty date, okay? And during the penalty date, will accrue penalty. So you'll still be able to turn it in, but the penalty is programmed into Canvas, and so there's no exceptions because Canvas is going to do it automatically. And it's going to take 0.5%, so 0.5% of the grade deducted per hour, right, during the penalty time. So that's like 12% a day, right? 24 hours, 0.5, 12% a day. And usually this goes for a couple days, and then it's just you have an expiration date, and after that you can't turn anything in for any credit. All right. So, typically things expire 3 to 5 days after. I've changed it a little bit, try to make things not clustered together too much. And part of it has to do with the scheduling of when the exams are and when you are preparing for exams. Try to make it more consistent. And again, all of these dates, if you look at the last couple pages of the syllabus, will show these for each assignment that we have, at least right now, scheduled. In terms of extra credit, there'll be no individual extra credit given. You are stuck with the grade that you earned in the class. So, think about what you need to do and start working on that now. In terms of that, some semesters there's potential extra credit. I don't think this semester there'll be one just because of the COVID things, but usually it was an attendance at a meeting. That probably won't happen this year. Sometimes I'll give extra credit for exams for everyone, right? So I might say, okay, we're going to, bump everybody's score up a point or two. That's not individuals, right? So everybody gets that. So that's, don't expect any extra credit because it's not going to happen. I hate to talk about this, but it's really important, academic dishonesty. And most of you are preparing for a professional career. And there's lots of forms of academic dishonesty: cheating, plagiarism, assisting. There's a nice little breakdown of those things in the syllabus that you should read. But we have some fairly strict rules in class. We've tried to find a nice medium between allowing students to do things so that it's a level playing field, but not allowing students to go too far one way or the other. So when you're taking exams, make sure you follow the rules for the exam. When you're doing work in class, make sure you follow the rules for doing work. As an example, it's more than likely that any paper you submit in class, whether it's your lab report or the Physiology Project, will be run through a program called Turnitin. And that's a program that assesses the originality of your paper, to see if you're whether purposely or inadvertently copying various aspects of your paper. And what it does is it basically keeps a record of every paper that's ever been sent through it. So if you send through a paper that somebody turned in 2 years ago that went through Turnitin, then it will pick it up and will say, oh, it's 100%, cheating, and then we will have an issue that we'll have to take care of. But most of this is now's a good time to figure out if you can do the work. If you're trying to move on to nursing school or physical therapy school or pharmacy school or graduate programs, if you can't do the work, then you're not going to be successful in those. And the way to find out if you can do the work is to be able to do it here. And the good news is, we have students that move from our program and are successful all over the place. So if you can do the work here, you can do it anywhere. Come to class on time, be respectful, things like that. Here is our lecture schedule. I've actually changed this a little bit and I've updated a little bit, but you can see this is what we do, and then here's our exams. This is actually updated because it's spring 2020. I don't know why I have that there. I'll fix that too. Student learning outcomes you can read yourself for lecture and lab. For advice, watch the videos and take notes during the videos, just like it was in the classroom when you were, if you were in face-to-face class and taking notes. Review your notes. We have posted notes from the students and for students. Integrate your notes and review for the class. If you can form a study group or a practice testing group, that would be good. Don't worry about asking questions. Most professors won't tell you this, but I work for you. If you weren't here, I would not be here. And here's the biggie: stay up with the material. If you get behind, it's difficult to catch up in face-to-face class, and in an online class, it becomes virtually impossible for some people. There's a couple assignments that you have due. JLR 1 and 2 are due on the 2nd. That is the second week of school. And I actually gave you a few bonus days to be able to turn in a little later. But here's what it is to be due, although you do have that kind of grace period. But again, don't live by those dates. Try to stay up with the due dates, and that will spread out things and keep things like it would be in a face-to-face class, which I think is probably the best way to do that. So JLR 1 asks you to do a number of things. One of those is called diagramming. Now, diagramming is just taking the methods of a laboratory or an experiment and drawing them out to simplify them so everybody can understand them. So here's an example of how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich using diagramming. Okay. Now, diagramming is sometimes called cartooning, where you're trying to limit the number of words and you're just drawing symbols. So here is a very nice diagram of how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So get 2 slices of bread, take peanut butter, jelly. Don't put the jelly in between the bread. Don't use fish, right? Put the jelly on a knife, put peanut butter on the knife, put them on each side of the bread, slap them together, cut them crossways, and that's how you do it. Now, very simple, easy to understand. You look at this, I wouldn't have had to explain it. You understand it, right? Obviously, experiments can be much more complex, and the idea is to simplify them so you understand what's going on. There are a few other components of JLR 1 that you'll have to do, and JLR 2, and I'll likely post something on Canvas strictly for those. But Oh, one too many. One of the things that students have issues with sometimes is the lab components. So when you look at the schedule, so this is the fall schedule, and here's the lab schedule. It says the first day it's recommended that you do lab 1. Right? What does that mean? Well, there'll be modules on Canvas with a page solely dedicated to lab 1, and it'll tell you what to do and what to think about, and it'll tell you to go to the supplement. Here's the supplement, okay, and look at lab 1. And then sometimes, oftentimes to be honest, the supplement says, oh, go to Fox. Now there is no specific correlation in lab 1 to Fox. So lab 1 does send you to Fox to look at a couple different things about a microscope and about some cells and tissue and some math stuff, but it says basically that you're not really responsible for it on an exam, but it's might help you with conversions. It reminds you of a microscope and things like that, but that might be a little less important this semester because we're not going to physically be using microscopes, right? Because we're not going to be in class. So go to the lab supplement, and then occasionally, more often than not, go to the lab manual, the Fox. But as an example for lab 2, all right, the supplement will say go to Fox 1.3, which has to do with homeostasis and negative feedback. And there's 2 experiments. And then it'll also tell you to go to 8.4 A, B, and C, which have to do with acid-base chemistry and respiration. So the lab book, right, for the supplement we'll always use, and then often that'll direct us to where to go for Fox. The Fox is nice because it has great background information, very succinct, fairly well written, fairly in depth, but easy to understand, that you would be responsible for on laboratory exams. The supplement has some information in it as well, and especially for experiments that don't appear in the Fox book. So as an example, later on in the semester, we'll do the glucose tolerance test. And for the glucose tolerance test, there's nothing in Fox that has to do with it. So it's all in the supplement. And it has some background information and some questions that you're supposed to answer. In Fox has questions at the end of each lab that you're supposed to answer as well. You're not going to turn it in for credit. You're not going to need to show it to me. But you need to learn it so that if those types of questions appear on the exam, you'll be better prepared to answer them. So that's kind of how it works. It takes a while for people to kind of get the handle of lab, saying, okay, do this lab, go to the supplement, and then the supplement will direct you to here, where we'll have the information in the supplement itself on how to do the lab. So that's kind of a background introduction to the orientation of the lab. And don't forget there's a companion video that deals a little more with the calculations that you're responsible for in lab 1. And we'll get into more lab stuff, obviously, for the rest of the semester, starting in lab 2. So that completes this video though.